On a pretty normal Saturday in 1987, Rich Dixon climbed a ladder to install some Christmas lights. Things didn't quite go as planned. He didn't expect the fall, the injury, or the chaotic hours in the emergency room. He didn't anticipate life in a wheelchair. He didn't imagine that he'd confront a life-defining choice when he discovered that he couldn't move his first chair 10 feet. He could have accepted the challenge and trusted God's faithfulness. Instead, he chose to believe that his life was over. Rich wasted a decade crying out to God, demanding answers he couldn't hear. He saw only the little blue guy, handicapped, useless, helpless, worthless. He knew those were lies, but knowing didn't help much.
I realized that I was an intellectual Christian. I knew a lot about Jesus, but I didn't really know Jesus. He wants to live in our hearts, not our heads. My disability was a heart issue. The little blue guy was an open wound in my heart that wasn't going to heal until I could invite Jesus into an authentic heart relationship.
While Rich gave up on life, God refused to give up on him. Though he couldn't see it through the fog of depression, he eventually looked back and realized that Jesus walked with him every step of his painful journey, that God faithfully sent people who gently led him back into the light.
When I fell, I believe Jesus knelt beside me and cried. I believe he felt my pain and my loss because he's been there. This was not his plan for me. He did not create me in his image to see me lying broken and in pain from senseless accident. We can debate the theology, but what matters is that God won't waste our suffering. It's never pointless. It's one of the Bible's most reassuring principles. Even when I can't see it, God promises to work for good in all circumstances. After years of angry resistance, I finally understood that God causes everything to work together for good.
When a friend introduced Rich to hand cycling, God used this simple activity to rebuild Rich's belief in hope and dream. For the first time since his accident, he didn't quit.
I really don't know why I didn't give up. It was so hard at first, and everything I'd learned in 12 years since my injury told me to quit. 12 years of inactivity, 12 years of listening to the lies of the little blue guy, 12 years of I can't. But something had changed. At first it seemed like a small thing, but it proved to be the difference between quitting and not quitting, the difference between a life and a wasted life. It seemed like a simple physical activity, but it was very, very, very much more than that. I believe the hand cycle and the attitude inspired were gifts from God. First it was down the block and back, then it was around the block, then it was around the neighborhood. I rediscovered that I could sweat and get flat tires and get caught in the rain, and it was okay. I could take my dog for a run. I could go out with my friends and ride through the park and enjoy the bike trails, just like everybody else. For the first time since my injury, I was doing something physical, just for fun. God was showing me that life wasn't over. He was breaking down the walls of isolation that I had built for so long. He was showing me that he still had a purpose for me. And as I cranked along, God nurtured a dream. I wanted to ride 1,000 miles in a summer.
1,000 miles? He could scarcely get around the block. But the guy who not so long ago couldn't push his wheelchair 10 feet began telling people he intended to ride 1,000 miles in 3 months. It was a God-sized dream, inspired by a renewed faith that God would bring good from this tragedy. In August 1999, his odometer showed 1,000 miles. It was an impossible dream, and it led to others. A few years later, Rich's 1,250-mile summer raised $12,000 for his best friend's cancer treatments. He answered his church's Climb a Hill challenge on a steep road in the Colorado foothills. The hand cycle helped him participate and contribute and inspired newfound confidence. He published a book titled Relentless Grace to remind readers that hope isn't a wish, but an expectation rooted in faith. As he rode his bike and spoke about the purpose God designs into every life, Rich sensed that God had placed a new mission in his heart. In August, Rich's friends will dip his hand cycle wheels in the headwaters of the Mississippi River in northern Minnesota. Then Rich will begin an 8-week, 1,500-mile journey to the Gulf of Mexico. Along the way, he'll talk about hope, he'll share the accomplishment of his big dream and encourage others to confront their fears and keep going, and he'll raise money to support clean water projects in Africa. We're doing Rich's Ride to share a big dream, to tell people that there's power in God's hope. We're doing it because for every dollar we raise, one person in Africa will be empowered to get clean water for a year. We're doing Rich's Ride because every person, no matter their circumstances, needs to know that Jesus lives in them, loves them, and walks with them.
We're doing the ride because I want to share the hope no matter what. We can count on God to faithfully keep His promise to work for good in all circumstances.